Breaking news, the tweet heard around the world. It's 3 a.m. The world is asleep, or at least most of it is. In the quiet of the night, something extraordinary is about to happen. You're asleep. Suddenly your phone erupts with the unmistakable chirping sound of a Twitter notification. It's loud enough to wake you from the deepest slumber. You groggily reach for your phone, eyes half open, wondering who could be tweeting at this ungodly hour. It's the president, and he's not wishing anyone a happy birthday. No, this is something far more serious. You squint at the screen, trying to make sense of the words. Canada, the tweet begins, has been stealing our jobs, our water, and our maple syrup for far too long. The words are bold, accusatory, and they send a shiver down your spine. You can't believe what you're reading. You rub your eyes, wondering if you're still dreaming. This has to be some kind of joke, right? But as you read on, it becomes clear that this is no prank. But this is no dream. The president's words are real, and they're causing a stir. You pinch yourself, hoping to wake up from this nightmare, but nothing changes. They think they can hide behind their moose and their health care, the tweet continues. But they're wrong. The president's words are filled with anger and determination. You can almost hear his voice as you read the tweet. We're taking back what's ours. The hashtag #MakeAmericaMaple again. It's catchy, but also terrifying. You can already see it trending on social media, people reacting with shock and disbelief. Just like that, the world holds its breath. This isn't just a tweet, it's a declaration. The implications are huge, and everyone knows it. The world watches, waiting to see what will happen next. The President of the United States has declared war on Canada. It's a moment that will go down in history, a tweet that will be remembered for generations. The world braces for the fallout, knowing that nothing will ever be the same again. So, what's the deal with this whole invasion thing anyway? Is it about the maple syrup, the moose, or is there something more sinister at play? Some speculate it's about Canada's vast natural resources. Others whisper about Trump's jealousy of Prime Minister Trudeau's hair. But the truth, as always, is probably a lot more complicated and a lot more ridiculous. Maybe he saw a documentary about Canada's free healthcare system and mistook it for a socialist threat. Or maybe he just really hates Celine Dion. Whatever the reason, one thing is clear. This is not going to end well. You know those stereotypes about Canadians being super nice and polite? Well, they're about to be put to the test. Because when it comes to defending their home and native land, Canadians don't mess around. From the bustling streets of Toronto to the icy plains of the Yukon, Canadians are taking up arms. And by arms, we mean hockey sticks, curling brooms, and maybe a few moose antlers for good measure. They may not have the biggest military, but they've got something even stronger: national pride and a whole lot of maple syrup. As news of the invasion spreads, the world reacts with a mixture of shock, disbelief, and utter confusion. Allies are appalled, enemies are laughing their butts off, and the United Nations is having a collective aneurysm. From the halls of Parliament in London to the bustling streets of Tokyo, people are asking the same question: what the heck is going on? Is this real life? Or have we all stumbled into some bizarre geopolitical satire? Section 5: NATO's Dilemma. Defend moose or freedom? Meanwhile, at NATO headquarters, things are getting awkward. The leaders are caught in a whirlwind of confusion and concern. They are faced with a dilemma that could have far-reaching consequences. The room is filled with tension as they try to navigate this complex situation. See, Article 5 of the North Atlantic Treaty states that an attack on one member is an attack on all. This principle has been the cornerstone of NATO's collective defense strategy since its inception. It has ensured that member countries stand together in the face of external threats. But does that apply when the attacker is also a member? This question has thrown the entire alliance into disarray. The leaders are pointing fingers and questioning each other's motives. The unity that once defined NATO is now being tested like never before. And more importantly, are they really prepared to go to war with the United States over Canada? The stakes are incredibly high. The leaders are debating fiercely, with maps of the USA and Canada in the background. The flags of both nations serve as a stark reminder of the gravity of the situation. It's a tough call, even for the most seasoned diplomat. The weight of the decision is palpable. They are caught between a rock and a hard place. trying to balance their obligations with the potential consequences of their actions. On the one hand, they have to uphold their treaty obligations. The integrity of NATO is at stake. If they fail to act, it could undermine the very foundation of the alliance. The leaders are shaking hands over a treaty, symbolizing their commitment to their mutual defense pact. On the other hand, they don't want to start World War III over a misunderstanding about maple syrup tariffs. The absurdity of the situation is not lost on them. They are arguing over a bottle of maple syrup, a seemingly trivial issue that has escalated into a potential global crisis. The world map and explosion in the background highlight the catastrophic consequences that could arise from this dispute. Section 6. Boots on the ground, a logistical nightmare. Back on the front lines, or whatever you call the border between two countries that share the world's longest undefended border, things are not going according to plan. Turns out, invading a country the size of Canada is a logistical nightmare, even for a superpower like the United States. The terrain is vast and unforgiving. The weather is unpredictable. And the Canadian geese? Let's just say they're not afraid to use their beaks in self-defense. Section 7. The Great White North stands strong. Despite being outgunned and outmaneuvered, the Canadians are putting up a valiant fight. They're using their knowledge of the land to their advantage, setting traps, launching surprise attacks, and generally making life difficult for the invading forces. And then there's the psychological warfare. Think endless loops of Celine Dion songs, strategic deployments of Tim Hortons coffee, and the occasional well-placed moose stampede. It's enough to drive even the most hardened soldier to the brink of sanity. Section 8. The Aftermath. A world in shambles. The invasion, as you might expect, doesn't end well for anyone. The United States, already deeply divided, is further isolated on the world stage. Canada, though victorious, is left to pick up the pieces of its shattered economy and its sense of security. The global order is in shambles. Alliances are broken. Trust is eroded, and the world is left wondering if this could happen between the United States and Canada, two countries that were supposed to be best friends, then what hope is there for the rest of us? Section 9. Reflections from a Divided Continent. In the aftermath of the Great Canadian Misunderstanding, as it came to be known, both countries were left forever changed. The conflict, which started over a seemingly trivial diplomatic error, escalated into a full-blown confrontation that neither side had anticipated. The scars of this misunderstanding ran deep, affecting not just the political landscape, but also the social fabric of both nations. Families were torn apart, communities divided, and the very essence of what it meant to be American or Canadian was questioned. The U.S., facing international sanctions and a humiliating defeat, spiraled further into internal division. The economic repercussions were severe, with trade embargoes crippling industries and leading to widespread unemployment. Social unrest became the norm as protests erupted in cities across the nation. The American dream, once a beacon of hope and prosperity, seemed to be fading into a distant memory. Political factions grew more polarized, and the unity that had once defined the nation was now a relic of the past. The myth of American exceptionalism lay shattered, replaced by a grim reality of hubris and decline. The once unshakable belief in the nation's unique destiny was now questioned by its own citizens. Monuments that had stood for centuries as symbols of American greatness were now seen as relics of a bygone era. The fall of these icons was not just physical, but symbolic, representing the crumbling of ideals that had once united the country. Canada, though scarred by the experience, emerged with a newfound sense of unity and resolve. The conflict had tested the nation's mettle, but it had also brought its people closer together. Communities rallied to rebuild what had been lost, and a sense of national pride surged through the population. The Canadian flag, once a symbol of politeness and neutrality, now waved confidently as a testament to the country's resilience and strength. The nice guy image was gone, replaced by a quiet confidence and a steely determination to defend their values and their sovereignty. Canada was no longer just the friendly neighbor to the north. It was a nation that had proven its ability to stand firm in the face of adversity. The transformation was profound as the country adopted a more assertive stance on the global stage. Canadian soldiers, once seen as peacekeepers, were now recognized as defenders of their homeland. The the world had underestimated Canada once, but they wouldn't make that mistake again. The international community watched in awe as Canada navigated its post-conflict reality with grace and determination. The lessons learned from the Great Canadian Misunderstanding had fortified the nation, making it stronger and more resilient than ever before. As the world map highlighted Canada, it was clear that this was a country that had earned its place on the global stage, standing strong against any adversities that came its way.